Tony.
Good morning, darling. You've been really nice to me. You've been really nice to me all morning. You've talked about all my phenomenal physical feats.
Yes.
You've talked about me being brilliant at American and Australian accents,
Uh-huh.
and I feel welcomed. Thank you.
And also, you're rocking a very cool pair of specs this morning.
Well, I am going a bit blind in my old age. I'm going to be 50 next year. Do you
Are
know
you?
that, Chris?
Well, I'm nearly 60.
Yeah.
I'm nearly 60, so don't worry about a thing. It gets better and better. By the way, nice
Well, we
paint.
need to. I want to talk about the 60th birthday and 50th birthday plans because actually I've been thinking of some, and we need to compare.
All right. So, what do you have in mind? What's sort of on the purview? What's on the horizon? Do you have a theme? Do you have a vibe?
Yeah, I do. So I don't want any presents.
Right.
But here's my thing. I
Mhm.
want to do 50 incredible things for
Yeah.
50.
Yeah.
But they have to be made up of acts of kindness,
Mm-hmm.
physical feats,
Yes.
and probably something like, I don't know, trying foods I've never tried before.
All
But I
right.
like something like that. We don't need to keep being given presents, do we?
No,
We can
God,
just
no.
do things,
It's the
put nice
opposite.
things into the
Yeah, no.
world. That's better.
Shed the skin. When is your birthday? What date is it?
October. So I'll be 49 this October and 50 next
Oh,
October.
right. Okay. So
October the 5th.
planning ahead, planning ahead. I mean, you
Yeah.
can also always do
Yeah.
that counting down from the 50th sort of, birthday eve 50 days out, and you can do 1K, 2K, 3K, and you get up to 50 kilometers.
No, you can do that. You can do that,
Okay,
Chris.
I'll do that.
And I'll do something else. I'll have 50 croissants instead. How about that?
Okay.
You can...
See, now if you do the running, you can have all the croissants.
Okay, fine.
All
Can't I
right.
just do yoga instead? 50
Okay.
yoga practices.
Well, you look great. You're looking great today there on Zoom. This show, I mean, what is this show all about? I was watching it yesterday. I was thinking, must watch Kate's show. Must watch Kate. She had a lovely day. Thought it's Kate Winslet. It's going to be great. She's brilliant at her job. And then I turned it on. It's the maddest program I've ever seen in my life.
I know. So it is completely bonkers. It is a satirical drama set within an autocratic regime in a fictional country somewhere in Central Europe. And I play this totally paranoid, insecure, slightly delusional, actually very delusional female dictator of this small nation. And yeah, she's allergic to mold. She doesn't really know how to communicate with people anymore, and yet she just believes that everybody loves her. So she's just bonkers. But it's also kind of a twisted love story about two people who meet and should never really have fallen in love. And there are things that happen in this show that are so bonkers that all you can do is laugh your head off.
Yeah,
They go on a diet of mud at one point. They just eat soil for a whole episode.
and
Really...
this all comes from this mysterious man's mum, apparently, and all her old wives' tales from the country.
That's right. Yeah. So my character is so paranoid and doesn't trust anyone anymore. So at the beginning of the show, in episode 1, she hires an ex-soldier to be her sort of manslave, who's a character played by the brilliant Belgian actor Matthias Schoenaerts. He's so amazing. But he plays the role of Herbert Zuback, who's this sort of huge 6'5" male protector, and they fall in love, and she just believes in every single thing he says. He believes that she believes he's going to be the one who shows her the light and shows her the way to cope with everything and everyone, and to win more love from her people. It just gets more and more bizarre, and it was so much fun for me to do comedy, which is something I haven't really done to this extent before. And even though I was in an episode of Extras, which was hilarious, but no, I loved it. I loved every minute of it, and to be with such a huge group of actors, especially after COVID, the whole thing was really so much fun for me to do something so different.
Well, it is laugh out loud. It's it's spit your tea out funny, but it's so dark at the same time, and it's hilarious and really frightening because you think, well, maybe this is how it is if you're a dictator.
Well, I mean, I play a woman whose Christmas address to her people is her singing, "Santa baby, just slip the sable under the..." She sings it wearing a very inappropriate costume, surrounded by female elves who are also wearing inappropriate costumes. I mean, it is meant to make you laugh. It's sort of terrifying, shocking, and very, very funny all at the same time. It's the kind of sort of show I think we all need a bit of at the moment, frankly.
But there's cobalt mine talk, there's slave talk, there's under the table trade deals, or deals that could become undone with the US, and there's fobbing them off and there's telling them where to go. And what I love about you and Mateus, your characters, is it's very Forrest Gumpian, as much as here's this unlikely character getting in very close to the seat of power and suggesting maybe this is how it should be, because either they're very simple, which is what you need to be amidst all the chaos and the disruption, or they're very wise, which you can't be if you're in the middle of all that on a daily basis, or like being there, like Peter Sellers, like Chauncey Gardner. And I got a bit of that going on as well.
Yeah, it does. It sort of skims across the surface of lots of different, I don't know, global themes, shall we say? But I think it's important to stress that it's not a documentary. It's not based on real events, and it's not based on a real person. It's a complete invention.
Well, we were talking about that earlier on. I was thinking, what does Kate put into her NutriBullet of backstory to come up with this character, or rather, who has she put into it? Then I started to put the people I thought you'd put into your NutriBullet, and thinking we can have this conversation on the radio.
I heard,
and I'm like, I don't think I can have that conversation. With you, I mean, how do you go about putting together such a maleficent, magnificently hilarious, pathetic, but undeniably charismatic character?
Well, I had to find a way of making her feel believable to me, because obviously there are so many things that happen that are incredibly arch and really surreal and feel very unreal. Mm-hmm. And so what I did was I absolutely looked at the kind of NutriBullet, as you brilliantly put it. I love that. I looked at her sort of NutriBullet of backstory, which is touched upon in the show, because she had a rather bizarre relationship with her father, who was also a politician. And so that thing of kind of searching for approval the whole time and feeling that she had to win his love in some way by doing something great, it still haunts her, to the extent that even though her father is deceased and has been for 1 year, she's kept his corpse in a glass coffin, and she goes downstairs and has little chats with Daddy. So it's quite so that was a bit of a way in for me, shall we say? Yeah. I think that kind of a lot of who she was rested in that very bizarre backstory of what kind of a weird childhood she must have had, and why she has become the way she has become, and why she sounds the way she does and interacts with people in this very strange, twisted way, which is usually her telling people that she's wonderful. Do I look nice? Yes, I look nice. Good, let's go. Happy.
You love me. You love me. You love me, don't you?
Do you love me? You love me, don't you? Yes, you do. Good, let's go. Yeah.
Sit, ridiculous. leave us. So honestly, Kate, it's unbelievable. The way you do it, it's like the way you keep it. I know you have to keep it up because you can't not do it, because then you just be Kate Winslet in this show instead of this woman. But it's unbelievable. So she's a sociopath. She's a psychopath. She has to be, because she doesn't laugh. And one of the telltale signs of psychopaths is they never laugh, do they?
No, exactly. You're going into territory that is quite frightening now to talk about, to be honest.
Yeah, well, it's all the more fascinating for it's so gripping. You can't, and it skips along, and it's brilliantly made, and like you say, the cast are amazing. How long did it take? Because each episode looks like a movie, which is what you want from your big shows nowadays.
Yeah. It was really long. It was a full 6-month shoot. But right. I have to tell you that Mayor of Easttown, because of COVID, by the time we came back after COVID and finished the whole entire show, I had actually been playing her for over a year. Right. It really was crazy. So sometimes television does take a very long time, more time than film, which I love, because you can really get so into it and dig right in and build these great relationships with the other actors. And that's where we were extremely lucky, actually, on The Regime, and Mayor of Easttown too. But on The Regime, we had so many wonderful British actors, and it was just such a laugh to spend time with those people every day. And there's something about the kind of British spirit of just, when the chips are down, you just got to keep going. And when you feel overloaded and there's just so many pages of dialogue and how you're going to cope, you all sort of huddle around a bit terrified and run your lines quickly and pray that you're going to do something decent that day. And there's that sense of kind of, if we can just get to coffee break and then we can have a jammy dodger and we'll just move on. So I loved being in that world for 6 months. It was really fantastic.
Some really cool outfits. I mean, she does dress well, doesn't she, this woman?
Yeah. So we tried to make everything she wears, we tried to make it feel very much like a costume as opposed to clothes, because everything about her is this kind of fake, glossy exterior. And no spoilers, but of course in episode 6 there's a reveal about what's really been going on underneath the surface. And And so we could really lean into costuming her in a very sort of arch way, with sort of touches of tradition here and there, and touches of just full on blatant kind of, I don't know, a woman using her physical self to kind of get the attention of men in a very blatant, sometimes just such grotesque way, which for me was so weird because I don't wear my physical self like
Not
that
at all.
No, and so it was really quite bizarre wearing costumes that felt very sort of spray on almost. They were, yeah, phenomenally tight.
But also,
yeah.
they do have that bespokeness about them, don't they? That, you know, they probably cost. Not as far as your wardrobe budget was concerned, but in real life they cost 10. She would demand that these were the most expensive outfits ever produced.
Yeah, but also she wouldn't have a clue what anything costs.
Yeah,
she wouldn't.
So.
She don't have a clue about money. She probably hasn't. Never even really held real, money, coins, and paper things, and she wouldn't have had a clue. She's so delusional. So being able to properly sort of run with that theme was honestly just a lot of fun, a huge amount of fun.
And also you got all these snappy lines, haven't you? That must be such a joy. You know, if only one could be so pithy and witty and economical with words, but effective with those words in real life. That must be so wonderful to have that available to you.
Honestly, it was hysterical. I mean, there's a couple of
give
lines
us a bit. Come on, give us a bit, Kate. Come on.
There's a couple of lines in episodes where she's shouting at her head of security service, who's a man named Mr. Laskin, played by the wonderful Danny Webb, and there's something he's trying to get her to do, and she says, "Oh, you want me to be the face of it, don't you, pig? Admit it, Piggy Wiggy." And she just doesn't care. And so we did have
Piggy Wiggy. Oh my God.
Piggy Wiggy, admit it, Piggy Wiggy. Yeah. Oh, it's just hilarious.
The negotiation,
it was really hilarious.
The negotiation between her and the American ambassador, that is gold. That exchange is absolute gold.
Well, that was very funny. So that's in episode 2. And that was actually in the first week of our entire shoot, filmed in Vienna in one of those beautiful, opulent palaces. And yeah, the American ambassador, Senator Holt, played by the brilliant Martha Plimpton. And it's just this sort of wonderful dialogue of phenomenal, witty, sharp, undercutting ping pong, I guess. And it's an amazing scene set at a long sort of 30-foot table with me seated at one end and her seated at the other, with these extraordinarily high ceilings that were painted. Oh my God, they were absolutely unbelievable. But it was frightening. It was really frightening playing this role in so many ways, because I had to make some quite bold choices in terms of how she was going to appear and how she would sound, because I was nervous that if I spoke in my own actual voice as I'm talking now, audiences might think, given the setting and the set design and the costumes, that they were watching the monarchy in some way. And obviously we've had things like The Crown and, so audiences are very sort of sharp to what it is that you're telling them narrative wise. And I had to make sure that I was making a choice that let the audience know that this was not supposed to be a real universe, and that absurd things probably are about to happen, and giving people permission to laugh. So all of the choices that I made, as well as sort of the costuming and so on, were all hopefully in support of letting people know that this is a satire and it's not something serious, and it's not based on real events, and it's not the monarchy. That was the most important thing. But yeah, it was it was a team effort as well. Sometimes when you're an actor, going it alone can be really terrifying. And often if I'm doing, as you were talking about earlier, a dialect of some kind, whether it's an American one, Australian or whatever, I'll often have a coach. And that's somebody I've known actually since Titanic. She's this brilliant woman who I've worked with for years, over half of my life. And of course, on the regime, I was doing sort of a version of how I sound, but not like myself. So I didn't have her. And actually, I was quite scared. I kept saying to people, does it sound okay? Tell me the truth. I remember saying to Martha Plimpton, be honest. If you think this doesn't work, just tell me now, and I'll quickly change it.
Yeah, and also, then you're going to get paranoid because your character is surrounded by people who won't tell her the truth, and you're sort of asking a similar a similar question, thinking, please tell me the truth.
Please tell me the truth. But the great thing actually about actors, about very sophisticated, well polished actors, is that they will tell you the truth. Thank God. So, and also thank God no one said to me, actually, I'm not sure, it's not really working for me, because that would have actually destroyed me if they had told me the truth. But nevertheless, there was a lot a lot of support flying around. It was a good thing.
I didn't know I could laugh. I wasn't aware that I could laugh till about 35 minutes into the first episode. Then I just realised that I could. And I know we talked about you holding your breath for 7 minutes and 15 seconds before. I think I probably held my breath for 35 minutes during the first episode. Then when I remembered to breathe, I also realised I could laugh at the same time.
Was it by any chance that scene when she starts singing to her people?
Oh my God, that's unbelievable! That's unbelievable because you have to sing in a sort of lounge kind of speakeasy kind of way, but you have to sing out of tune. Now I know you can sing really well. Singing out of tune for somebody who can sing is really not that easy, is it?
It was quite tricky. I have to be honest, but just hysterical. I mean, keeping it together and not laughing because the audience, they hadn't heard me do it until we got there and were filming. And so watching these faces of people who had to pretend to be serious, adoring their Chancellor singing and believing that this woman was singing perfectly, even though she's completely tone deaf to a room full of people. It's trying not to laugh at their reactions whilst I was filming it was hugely challenging. I mean, trying not to laugh full stop the entire time we were making the show. There's significant gag reels, let me tell you. But that was a choice, Chris. It's great that you kind of noticed that. We had a choice there. We could have either had her sing that song extremely well, but by making a deliberate decision, which was not on the page, we chose that when we were rehearsing, to make that decision to have her sing badly was a surefire way of letting the audience know.
Yeah, and the old subservient hubby on the keyboards as well. That was that relationship is so chilling, I think.
Really chilling, very twisted. Her poor French husband who has left an entire family and life behind for her because it worked better for her political campaign.
But you say her poor French husband, but her poor French conniving husband.
Yeah, conniving, brilliantly played by Guillaume Gallienne, wonderful Amazing. French actor. We had a lot of people from all over Europe in this show, and it really brought a lot of different energies and skills to the room, and it was really fun, really fun.
It is hilariously petrifying. The Regime, out today on Sky Atlantic, and now other great telly around at the moment. Have you seen Ripley? Have you seen any of Ripley at all?
No, I haven't.
Dying sick.
Ned and I were saying earlier that we keep reading about it, and I think we're sort of probably saving it up and we'll watch it all in one big hit. But yeah, can't wait.
Right. Well, it's 8 hours. So we managed 4, 2 on Friday, 2 on Saturday. It's so good. Have you seen Scoop?
No, not yet. But I bumped into Gillian Anderson at an event not very long ago, and I was asking her about it. And Rufus Sewell is so terrific. I used to go out with Rufus Sewell years ago. I did.
No.
So every time I sit,
now you've said that. I recall it. Now you've said it.
Yeah, back in the day, long time ago. Yeah. I mean, I think I must have been 21 or something, but he's so fantastic. And to see him front and center in a way that I think we haven't done on British television for a long time, very long time. I'm really, really excited.
You've got all these treats to come. So I was watching it because Billy's in it and she was on the show last week. And I was watching and I knew Billy was in it, obviously, for loads of different reasons, but I didn't know Rufus was in it. And I try not to find out who's in anything. I, in fact, try not to find out what anything is about, including the regime, before I watch it. So I've just got all the surprises and all the fun, and I don't have any of prejudgment, which I'm very prone to, and mid and post judgment as well. Anyhow, moving on. That's enough of my paranoia. But done. You just got yourself out of that one, really.
Yeah,
thanks. And I got myself into it and out of it. And but I didn't even know it was Rufus till about 35, 40 minutes in. I thought, who is that? That's how good he is in this show. So you got all that to come. Have you seen? You haven't seen this. It's been out since 3:00 this morning. Have you seen the final episode of Curb, which is out today?
No, but I'm sort of. I don't know. I almost feel like I want to save it up because I can't bear that it's the last one. I so can't bear it. I don't want to have to go through something.
I know.
Watching this last one, I want to wait until I'm ready to go through whatever it is that we experienced and watching the actual last episode. That seems impossible to me.
I know, it's funny, isn't it? Because we talked about this a couple of weeks ago about if you have the last of something you love, just never watch it, so you've always got it to watch. And maybe one day in the future, on a balcony somewhere or a veranda, somebody says something that lets you know something. You think, well, okay, now it's time to watch that final episode of the thing I've been
I can't wait. I can't wait. But I wonder how he does go.
No, I don't know. I don't know. What do you think? Do you think he kills himself off, or what? It's got to be catastrophic, hasn't it?
Well, it probably will. Let's just hope it isn't a sort of I don't know, an aborted attempt at holding his breath for too long, because that would not be good.
All right, listen, you brought that up. What the heck was? Sorry, I'm late. This must be a very famous thing that you did that's passed me by.
It is. It is, Chris. It is, yeah.
Sorry, I apologise.
Late to the party.
How did you get? How did you get to 7 minutes and 15 seconds of breath holding? Obviously, you can train yourself to 4 or 5 minutes pretty quickly, but how did you get to 7?
Okay, so you said I did this for fun earlier on your show. I did not. I did it for, I mean, obviously I did it for fun because I do everything for fun in my life, but I did it because I did Avatar. So I was training. Part of my training for Avatar was learning how to hold my breath for a very long time because we had so many water sequences in that film. And I worked with a coach. So this is the most important thing I really feel I do have to say. It's a sport. You have to it's like anything. It's a muscle. You have to train. You cannot just hold your breath at will. It doesn't work. It also can be dangerous, especially if you're holding your breath in water. So please don't anybody try it.
Good point. Very well made. Thank you.
It's really important. And also one thing that people don't know is that when things go wrong when breath holding in water, typically actually happen when you take that first breath as you come out of the water. So your lovely Aussie Jane earlier, she said that I come round and I'm panting for breath, and actually I'm not panting for breath. If you play that bit of that clip again, you will hear 6 what are called cleansing breaths. 6 breaths, and then you will hear me speak relatively normally. Right. I'm not hyperventilating. It is a breathing sequence that you absolutely have to do as soon as you surface. People will surface and they'll go, and that huge inhalation of breath makes you go lightheaded, people faint, and that's when people run into trouble. Wow. So I was taught the breathing sequence when you surface almost before I was taught anything else. It's part of the safety. Now, it is the closest I've ever come to real meditation. I have such a busy mind. I don't know how people meditate for long periods of time, but I found it the most relaxing thing I have ever done, because you have to slow your heart rate down. You have to almost immobilize your whole body. You're hanging in the water like a sort of a manatee, and you just have to think about nothing. I ended up counting the slats on the bottom of the little platform I was standing on in the water. And 7 minutes and 15 seconds. Wow. I couldn't believe I'd done it. But you do have to go through a breathing sequence before you hold your breath. So typically when people think, oh, okay, I'm going to hold my breath, you go like that. That's a tiny, tiny area right up in the chest of where you're holding your breath from. It's shallow, very shallow area. I'm talking as though I really know what I'm talking about. Ultimately, I don't. I did this for a specific thing. The freedivers will tell you exactly how to do all of these things. But you take what's called a peak inhalation before you actually hold your breath. And some people can take almost a minute just doing that very slow inhalation, where it's a full body breath that starts extremely low, almost in the stomach. So the amount of breath that you take in, and then you can all do packing as well, where you take these teeny tiny sips of breath right at the very, very top before you then go in, put your face in and hold your breath in a static breath hold. But as I say, I was trained for nearly a month to do those breath holds. It's a phenomenal thing to be able to do. I couldn't just do it again right now. I'd have to go through probably some of the training again, at least, to remind myself. But I worked with, and I heard you mention David Blaine. We were trained by a brilliant guy called Kirk Kroc, who trained David Blaine for that similar breath hold. But yeah, I mean, I was very proud of myself. I didn't think I'd be able to do something like that in my 40s.
Yes!
You see, it's so funny when you're an adult, you think, all the learning part happens when you're a child. No. You do all your education. I mean, you never, ever, ever stop learning. My God, I was so proud of myself, Chris. I can't tell you. I thought, yes, I am power. I am woman. I felt so great about myself. It was wonderful. Wonderful thing to do.
You're so great, Kate. You've got a new film coming out in September, Lee. Tell us about that while you're on.
Oh, God. Oh, I'm so glad you asked me about Lee. So Lee was something that it was a very important part of my life for almost 10 years. It just took a long time to really get the script right and put the funding together. It is a film that is about the phenomenal World War II war correspondent Lee Miller, American woman. She was born and raised in Poughkeepsie, New York. She was a model for a while. She was actually largely known as Man Ray's muse. And what we have done in our film is to tell a side of her life that's never been seen before, which is her as a middle-aged woman who went to war with her Rolleiflex camera and photographed the atrocities of the Nazi regime for the readers of British Vogue. She was a big believer in not withholding the truth from people. She was a truth seeker. She believed in justice. She was a very, very powerful, formidable life force. And her story has never been told in this way. She's always been seen through the male gaze. And this was something else for us. And I'm very proud of the film. My son, Bear, who's turning 10, he just rolls his eyes because all he's ever heard pretty much all his life is Lee Miller. When's mum making Lee? When's she doing Lee? And now, of course, he's like, when can I see it? When can I see it? I see it. And I realize, of course, he really can't see it at all. It's not age appropriate, but no, I'll show him little snippets of it here and there. But yes, that's coming out in September 13th. I'm incredibly excited for people to see it. And yeah, it's one of those things, as I get older, I feel so grateful to pull these things off, just to keep going, keep being invited to the party, keep having as good a time as I possibly can, hopefully doing a little bit of good along the way. And yeah, just life's for living. We've got to get on with it. It's so short. We've got to make the most of it all.
Wow. I'm going to leave it there if that's all right with you, Kate. What a lovely little riff to end on. It's been great talking to you. You look amazing. I love that picture, that painting, by the way. It's awesome.
I'm in my friend's office because our Wi-Fi fell apart today. So Ned and I suddenly jumped in the car, IT support Ned, and we raced to our friend's office. And here we are. But yeah, thank you. It's a beautiful painting and a wonderful, slightly dodgy Venetian blind. Will you play Titanium featuring Sia for me? It's one of my favorite songs. And I think every middle-aged woman should listen to this song and remember that this is you. You are Titanium. Please play it, Chris.
Do you know Sia?
No, I've never met her in my life. And she's incredible.
She's an
I really
amazing
admire
human
her.
being. Oh, you and she would get on like a house on fire. The last time I saw was in a car park in central London. Both said hello to each other.
Well, that's weird.
I know it is weird, but it's great. Okay, we can do that for you. Right, anything else you want to say about the regime? It is, honestly, you got to watch it. Isn't it great when people come up with totally original telly? I know that you're on this, but if you could sort of zoom out to 10,000, 20,000, 30,000 feet. Can you get why we appreciate it as much as we do? Because it is completely off the wall. There are some shows that now and again really hit that particular bullseye. You think, this is so original, it's so ridiculous. It could be too ridiculous for its own good, but it's not. Congratulations, it's wonderful.
Thank you. Oh, thanks, Chris. I'm so glad you said that because I do happen to love this show. And it's very rare for me to say to people, oh, I'm in this thing. You've really got to watch it. Yeah. I don't do that, but this thing I will say that to people. It's fully worth the watch. Yes. It is so crackers, very, very funny, side-splittingly funny, and it's a hoot. It's a ride. It's really worth watching.
All right, watch This Thing, also known as The Regime, out today, Sky Atlantica now. Thank you, Kate.
Thank you, guys.